All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, a physique update from Regan Grimes at under 2 weeks out from the Arnold Classic, where he says he's weighing 265 pounds. Right out of bed, that's his fasted weight. So a lot of people were wondering why I left Regan out of my top 6 predictions for the Arnold Classic. He's got a lot of momentum right now after winning that KO Pro Show in Egypt, his placing at the Prague Pro, his placing at the Legion Sports Festival. He's looked better than ever in those recent shows, so a lot of people are hyped on how he's going to look going into the Arnold Classic. Now, the main reason why I don't have Regan in my top 6, there's 2 reasons. One of the bigger reasons is that I've heard a lot of talk about him being sick during his prep and that setting him back. I think that was at like 7-8 weeks out, somewhere around there. He talked about that on the Cutler cast that he did, which was like 6 weeks out. So that was one thing. Number 2, I think some of the updates that he's posted do look like he's been set back in his prep, and he looks like he's behind compared to some of the other physique updates we've seen from other guys in this lineup. They look leaner, and they look like they're in better shape. So if you take a valid reason for him looking behind and a valid setback in that sickness and the fact that he looks like he looks behind, you know, I think there's a chance that he might be off at this Arnold Classic. I think there's a good chance he might not be at 100%. And I think Regan needs to be at 100%, and he needs to be crazy sharp in these lineups to do well. As you guys saw, I mean, at the Olympia, he was 15th, and he went from 15th to winning that KO Pro Show in such a short amount of time because him coming in shape is so important. Now, obviously, one of Regan's issues has been size. It looks like he's gotten outsized in a lot of the lineups that he's in, so you can't put on a whole lot of size in just under 6 months' time between the Olympia and the Arnold, especially when he did so many shows in between there. So there's not a lot of off-season room to grow. So if he's not going to add any significant size, he needs to keep that conditioning consistently good. And if that's not going to be the case at the Arnold, I think we might see him run into the same issue that he ran into at the Olympia. He might get outsized, and without that conditioning, he's not going to stand out as much as he would like he did in some of those other lineups, like Legion Sports Festival, like the KO Pro Show, like Romania. Excuse me, not Romania, the Prague show. So it's not that I don't like Regan. You guys know I love his physique. I love his structure. I think he brings something different to men's open bodybuilding. I just have a feeling something is off with this Arnold Classic prep, and he might come in off at the Arnold. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Where do you think Regan Grimes is going to place at this year's Arnold Classic? Now, next up in the news, a physique update from William Bonac, the man who a lot of people believe is going to be one of the top 2 at this year's Arnold Classic. He's a former Arnold Classic champion. He's one of the highest Olympia placers in this lineup. He's gone toe-to-toe with Brandon Curry before, who is the man that a lot of people think is going to win this show. And he posted this update, which he says was taken on Valentine's Day, February 14th, which would put him 1, 2, 3 weeks, maybe under 3 weeks out from the Arnold Classic. So really within crunch time that this side tricep shot was taken, and you can really see a lot of detail in his physique, specifically in his lower body. I've been talking about his calves for the past couple weeks since he posted some of those calf updates. I think he's got, that's one of the things that he's got over Brandon Curry is he's got really good calves. I think Brandon has brought up his legs a lot, but obviously William Bonac is very dangerous in the lower body. But look, honestly, even though on paper it looks like Bonac is the biggest threat to Brandon Curry, he never got to defend his title last year against Nick Walker. On paper, he looks like he would be the only guy that could beat Brandon in this lineup. I still think, despite that Brandon looks significantly further ahead, further along than Bonac does. Now, Brandon gave us another physique update today as well, so this is kind of the week of physiques. We're getting a lot of sneak peeks, and I didn't mean to rhyme all that, but Brandon Curry posted this. He says, also taken from this Arnold Classic prep, just like he said with all these updates, but not necessarily recent. And I would still assume that this was taken further out than Bonac's update, further out than 3 weeks. And to me, I mean, you guys can let me know what you think, but I think Brandon looks sharper than some of the updates that we've seen, sharper or as sharp as Bonac does in these recent updates that Bonac has posted. And I believe in these updates that Brandon is at least 6 weeks out, just based on the timeline that he's posted some of these and that he keeps saying they're all old. I honestly think that Brandon is going to come into this Arnold Classic looking crazy. And I was saying this in a conversation with someone in the comments yesterday. The only result that would surprise me, that would shock me at the Arnold Classic, the only placing that I would be like jaw dropped would be if Brandon doesn't win the show. I wouldn't be surprised really at any of the other top 6 placings, because there's so many good bodybuilders in this lineup. I think these guys, there's lots of guys that could place almost anywhere within that top 6. But I think if someone were able to beat Brandon here, that to me would be the most shocking outcome. That would really be the only thing that would leave me like speechless, is if someone came in that crazy and that good that they could beat the only Mr. Olympia champ in this lineup, one of the only Arnold Classic champs in this lineup. Because based on the way that Brandon is looking and based on Brandon's track record, for someone to come in and beat him, they would have to look Mr. Olympia champion level good. I really think a lot of people are already starting to write Brandon off because of the fact, it seems like in bodybuilding years, it's been so long since he's won the Olympia, because now he's lost twice to Rami. But he's only 39. He's not even in his 40s yet. So I think the chance still exists that we might not have even seen the best version of Brandon Curry yet. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think Brandon Curry can be stopped at this year's Arnold Classic if he does come in his best ever? Now, next up in the news, another facial update from one of the most mysterious men in classic physique in the Arnold lineup, Kalecinski, who was 4th place at the Olympia in classic physique this year, or last year, 2021. He says that Dorian Yates actually told him, he was the one that inspired him to kind of go shadow mode this prep and not show any physique updates at all going into the Arnold Classic, and to really catch everybody off guard and surprise them with what he brings to the stage in Columbus, Ohio. So all we get is these little teasers here and there of what Urz's face is looking like. And obviously, he looks very depleted. His face looks very sucked in. It looks very much like a death face. And I think a lot of classic physique fans are very excited to see what Urz is going to bring to the Arnold Classic stage in Ohio. And I think a lot of people are expecting his, big physique reveal to be a really impressive one. I mean, as you guys have seen over the past few weeks, we've had pretty much unlimited access to Ramon Dino, to Breon Ainsley, to Terrence Ruffin, all these top guys posting a lot of physique updates. Urz is choosing to be the only mysterious one. We'll see how that plays out, and we'll see if that was a good strategy in under 2 weeks. Now, next up in the news, we also have a physique update from Terrence Ruffin, your reigning defending Arnold Classic Physique champion. Now, he does not say exactly when these photos were taken, but he shows both the front and the back, and you can assume they were taken relatively recently by the fact that when you look at the back shot, you can see that he already has striated glutes. Hamstrings are very separated and defined. You look at his legs from the front. This is one of the things that we looked at when he was like 3 weeks out from his last Arnold Classic prep. The separation that you can see in the quads, also very deep and very noticeable. It wasn't nearly as deep or as noticeable his last Arnold Classic prep at around 3 weeks out or further out. So I'm focusing so much on detail here and conditioning when it comes to Terrence because I feel like his shape and his posing are so good. His shape from the standpoint of his actual structure, his actual physique, his aesthetics. That's what I mean when I'm referring to his shape. His shape and his posing are so good. I feel like they actually carry him a very long way in this division, to the point where he might not have to worry as much about conditioning. Now, that might sound ridiculous, but think about what we were talking about with Regan Grimes earlier. Because he is lacking in the size department when it comes to men's open lineups, that makes his conditioning that much more important, because he's not going to put on a crazy amount of size in a very short amount of time between shows. So if he comes in off, he's going to be small and he's going to be off. And of course, I mean small relative to the rest of a men's open lineup, not small relative to anybody else, because 265 is a huge dude. So it's extra important for Regan to come in on. But with Terrence, where he's already very complete, he has very few weak points in classic physique. His physique is so perfectly suited for that division. I don't think he has to worry as much about conditioning as a guy like Regan might for men's open. But the fact that he's looking so conditioned and so on point, this Arnold Classic prep, I think there might be a blowout when he wins the Arnold Classic this year. I think this might be like the best version of his physique that we have ever seen. The most shredded Terrence physique, plus Terrence's trademark posing, his trademark shape, his trademark flow, the V-taper, the small waist, the vacuum pose, all that good stuff that Terrence already brings. It looks like this might be one of the best conditioned versions we've ever seen of him. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, I'm a fan of Terrence, and I was pretty critical of Terrence going into last year's Arnold Classic. A lot of people thought I was too hard on Terrence. So I don't say it lightly when I say he looks to me better in some of these photos than I've seen from any of his other preps from a conditioning standpoint. So while I fully believe in being critical where critique is warranted, I also believe in giving props where props are due, because I think Terrence is looking phenomenal. and I think it's kind of a similar situation with Brandon Curry, I don't see Terrence losing this show. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. That's going to wrap it up for today's video, guys. I hope you guys did, in fact, enjoy it. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you hit that like button. Leave a thumbs up on the video. It helps out a lot. Make sure you click subscribe. If you have not subscribed already, click the bell notification icon as well. As always, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.